Welcome back, guys. Today we got a bit of a different video for you. Instead of having all the background music and fun edit stuff, we cut all that out and I just compiled a bunch of footage from a few months ago, back when a friend of mine, Russ, sold his green tree pythons to me. Let me know if you like this style video in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit us up on Facebook for those sweet cage builds. I look forward to hearing from you guys, and let me know if you like it. So here's a bunch of good information that I think everybody should see. Just to keep them dark.
Now with breeding these guys, I don't know. He has them, so he's done research. I've done like zero research. So what does it take to breed these? Are they kind of little?
Well, my breeding season, most guys breed them in the fall. Okay, starting in like October or something. So I would begin cycling temps at, say, the beginning of September. Both of my breedings that were successful, I did in late summer. I did a little different. Now, you can breed any time of the year.
Oh, well, we're in Michigan. We got a bit different weather.
Right. As long as you cycle properly, you can breed them in the middle of summer if you want. But I would start dropping probably, if I was to do them this year, like beginning of September, to start going for 3-4 days at a time, drop 1 degree. 3-4 days, drop another degree. At night. Always bring them up to normal temps during the day.
So they said 85 is what you set it at, or what temps do you usually run?
Daytime temps, there's been some new information come out. They don't need to be 86, 88 like people thought in the past. You're good. Any regimen between 82 and 85 degrees is beautiful.
Yeah, I noticed mine when I had it up about the 86 mark. It was sitting on the other side of the cage. I dropped it down to about the 84, and it's all over.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Well, the 2 siblings I just sold from your pairing, I just sold them the other day, and I had them in here in ambient temperature. So if you have a snake room that you can keep at 82, beautiful.
Well, that's what his basement sits at 80 constant.
Can you turn this down? Yeah.
That way it's like 79.
Well, nighttime drops are good if you can do it, but if not, 82 ambient is good. But if you have a horizontal cage like this, you got 84 on one side and 78 on the other, it's perfect. You know what I mean?
Yep. Now, when you're dropping down, how low do you go? You said every 4 days you drop.
Okay, so every 4 days, start dropping slowly. Over the course of about 3 weeks, get it down to about 72 at night.
Okay.
Yep. About 72. Now, I'm not an expert. I've had 2 successful clutches, so I know a little bit. Everything I learned is from those guys on those forums.
Anybody who isn't already following the Morelia's Facebook group, if you're following any of the boa groups, especially ball python groups, there's nobody better than the green tree python guys. That's the only Facebook group that I go to, and I've never once been mad at.
Right. And all the guys are awesome, man.
Oh my God, you ask a question, and they're genuine professionals that are telling you, the people that have been over and wild caught them and everything like that.
And the way I've got walked through breeding them, I've private messaged back and forth with these guys. They'll private message you, tell you anything you need to know. I just met a guy in Livonia that's on there. He just bought these 2 sibs from me. And he's so cool, man. And he's in contact with all those guys. A wealth of information. They're all willing to help. That's the beautiful thing about it.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say cycle them for about 6 weeks. And then what I would do is introduce the male into the female's cage. Okay, watch them very closely the first night to make sure there's no fighting involved or anything.
Do you put them in an evening or
right before dark? I usually put them in. Yep. And if you want to mist them before dark, just to get their activity level up a little bit, and usually the first night you'll see some action. You know what I mean?
Now I know with boas we leave them together until they ovulate. Ball pythons, every 3 days we pull them out. What do you do with male to females on green
guys
trees?
Do it differently, but what I do is I keep them in until the female starts to grow follicles. So before they ovulate, they're going to grow follicles because they're not mammals. They don't have eggs. They grow their eggs from scratch. So when she starts to plumping up a little bit, what she'll do is typically follicle development, they'll get under that heat panel and they'll slowly start rolling their coil. So they're exposing the side and underbelly of their coil to that heat. And the minute she goes off food and that female's refusing food, that's the best sign you can get because you know she's growing follicles. You really can't expect anything to happen until you get that for sure refusal of food, you know what I mean? So when she starts refusing food, you can start to get a little bit excited. Not too much though. You want to temper your excitement because with Condros, and you'll learn this just by reading books, and if you don't have the more complete Condro by Greg Maxwell, it's the Condro Bible. I love it. There's another new one that came out that guys swear by it, and it's a good one. It's got a lot of that new information about temps on it and stuff, but I like the Greg Maxwell one because it goes in depth about breeding. You won't get as much breeding info in the new book. But just buy them both. They're both great books to
worth
have.
it.
Every step of the way breeding these things, I go and reference that more complete chondro book. It's just very helpful. So once she starts refusing food, that's when I would remove the male. Other guys might leave them in until they ovulate. Guys do it differently.
Okay,
but
so
that's
what
I would do.
Food you remove and wait to see the ovulation.
You're right.
Okay.
Just make sure she's showing signs of maybe some swelling, and then
and that different hang. You'll see. I've seen plenty of pictures where they almost coil over like this, and they literally just hip over the side.
Right, they'll get a little uncomfortable.
So you'll see that gap there, and it's almost like they're starting to get uncomfortable, swelling up with follicles.
So once you get to that point, your next step is ovulation. That's what you're looking for. Now, depending on what, you never really know when they're starting to develop follicles, so the time frame between follicle development and ovulation can vary so much. You have to watch for ovulation. Now, that's a 24 to 36 hour event. If you've ever bred snakes, I don't know if other snakes do it this way, but every time mine have ovulated, they just swell up like a balloon.
Oh, especially these guys. I've seen pictures, and there's some of them that look painful.
Exactly, and they cannot perch. They're very uncomfortable. You cannot... Sometimes they'll ovulate and you can't notice it. They're good at hiding it sometimes, but the majority of the time, if it's a good, successful ovulation, you'll know it. You just got to keep an eye on them. You got to constantly be checking on these snakes when you're in the process of breeding them, because you don't want to miss. If you miss one event, you could get all messed up. But once you see that ovulation, I think it's like 40 days after ovulation. Don't quote me on that. I think that's what it is. You can expect eggs.
Okay.
I mean, if they have a successful ovulation, boom, that's when you can start getting really excited. But then you can't get super excited until you get the eggs and they're fertile and they look good and they have good vein development, because you can have a snake ovulate beautifully, and chances are with a good ovulation you're going to get some fertile eggs, but it could be 2 and 20 infertile eggs. You don't know, you know what I mean? But with an ovulation you can usually expect that you're going to have at least some fertile eggs. And then once they're laid, incubation time is typically about 49-50 days, depending on your temps.
That's pretty quick.
It's very quick.
Yeah.
The lower the temps, the longer they're going to go. Some guys have said they've gone 70 days, which is kind of crazy, but it happens, you know what I mean?
Now, what temps did you run these babies at?
I incubate a straight bake at 87.5 degrees.
Perfect.
Yep. Some guys will start low, like 85, and then they'll go high, like middle of incubation, like 88, and then they'll drop it back down. That's a variable temperature regimen. I'm not that detail-oriented, so I like to just set it at 87.5 and just run with it. And I've had good success that way.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure with these chondro eggs, you got to have a good incubator that keeps stable temps. And once you read up on incubation, and it's like this with a lot of species, you just got to watch the eggs and do what the eggs are telling you to do. If the eggs start to get big and plump, too much humidity, bring it back a little bit. If they start to desiccate and sink in and stuff, you want to boost that humidity up to get them more full. You just got to watch the eggs and do what they're telling you to do, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And
do you set them on like a hatch rate or something like that?
I'll show you exactly how I do it. I'll show you my method. This is ceiling light grid. You can buy it at any Home Depot. I just cut it. I glued it to these little things to keep it elevated, and I fill this with water. I do a no substrate method. Mm-hmm. It's just
I hear really good success with that.
Yeah, it's just complete water under there. Now, I'm not a pro. I've lost a lot of eggs in incubation, as I told you the other day. So it's trial and error, man. I mean, the more experience you get, the more I've learned. Getting the neos established and getting them to eat is one of the hardest things with these snakes. Ooh. But it just takes practice. One thing you can never do is be too timid with them. If you can't get them to eat and they're tucking their head in their coils, you got to slap them with that pinky, man. Just beat them up a little bit. You got to make them mad because you want them to strike.
Yeah, and once they taste it, then they're going.
Once they start striking, typically if you can get them to strike on the head in the right way, they'll grab the head and hold on, and their reflex will take over and they'll start eating. Mm-hmm. So
that's almost all my research that I've been doing is trying to get young babies, actual neonates to eat. Yeah. How to get them started, how to get them set up, because I know that's the hardest part. So out of all the snake keeping we do, all the boas, everything like that, when it comes to breeding, getting those little neonates grown up and into adulthood is the hardest part that I think we're going to have. Yep,
it is. And there's lots of tricks you can do for stubborn eaters. And the one thing I've used that really helps, and everybody recommends this, use chick down to send them, you know. I have a baby chick frozen in that freezer right now that I've used to get some of these. Some of them I couldn't get to strike. They would strike and drop, strike and drop. You put a little chick down on them, strike and hold, boom. Sometimes it works that quick. I mean, it really works. So
That's good to know. Really good to
you
know.
get some babies, start getting some chick down, and all this info I'm telling you is in that book. Or any question you ask on that Facebook page, they're going to tell you. And there's literally like 4 or 5 different Facebook pages dedicated to Condros.
Like
guys
I said,
are obsessed
that community
with these
is so
things.
much better than any of the other
Yeah.
ones. Like that is such the amount of detail orientation and patience that it takes for these snakes are just second to just about anything out there. So the people that are actually successful on it really know information and are really patient with things, which goes a long way when you're asking questions.
And even keeping these snakes, you know, especially in the past, people, oh, it's so difficult of a snake to keep. You know, good luck with that, man. I'll keep my ball python. No, they're not as difficult as you think. They're intimidating, but as long as you have the correct environment for them, they thrive in captivity.
Yeah, I can tell you.
That's been big in the last 20 years is how far we've come on information.
Sure.
Like 20 years ago, we were pulling that thing out of the wild, and we're like, well, what do we do now?
Right.
And now they're like, well, you know, people have been doing this for 20 years. They have the information. This is what you do.
Yep, and everybody's like, oh, they're so mean. Good luck with that snake. That thing's just, they're wicked. You know, you can't tame them down. Look at this.
Mine has never bitten me either.
Right.
I've had, that other one for about 8 months now,
Right.
9 months now.
That's the difference between captive born and farm raised. Even the farm raised ones, you gotta watch because people will sell farm raised animals. They're farm raised, technically they're born
Farm
in
hatch,
captivity, but they're sent over from Indonesia, so they're still imports.
Yep.
So typically you have to treat them for parasites. That's why I had these online on Craigslist the other day, and one guy was badgering me about it. He's like, $600, I can get one for half that price at Triple L Reptile or whatever. I'm like, yeah. Go ahead and you'll spend double that in vet bills when you have to get it tested, treat it for roundworms, and you know, those are farm bred imported animals that they're selling at like Triple L Reptile, even Underground Reptile, stuff like that. You know, so.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference when you get it from someone who has a passion working with snakes than somebody who's trying to make money off it.
Yeah.
Well, it's never once eaten a lizard. It doesn't have parasites.
Right.
Everything's been rat pups, and they're used to captivity.
That, and they were born into our winter cycle. You know, a lot of times you're getting stuff south of the border or down there where it's backwards. It's like 100, 180.
It's always an
here.
adjustment, yeah. And the
You
two
know?
sibs I sold from your snake yesterday, or the other day, the guy couldn't believe it. I mean, he can believe it, but because he knows Condros. But we pulled him out of the tub, didn't strike one time, and he put him in his container, took him home, put him in his rack system. Not one strike, just very gentle. You know what I mean? So even these ones, I can take these ones out and hold them right now. I don't recommend it when they're that young, but I can, and they won't even strike me. So
I've only held mine a couple of times, but I reach in. I literally pet it every day, so it's used to me poking it in case I ever have to move it. But back to the whole beginning too, like when people first buy these snakes, they're so intimidated because they're such a hard animal to keep. The best thing you can do is, like you said, buy books, get information, talk to people. When I got mine, I got it home, I had it set up, and within 3 days I had everything kind of figured out on it to have all the specs that I wanted. And now it's the easiest snake I own. It's, you know, everything has to be perfect on it, but once you learn how to do that, it's just so easy to do.
Once their needs are met, they're very low maintenance, believe it or not.
Yeah, like I said, it's the easiest snake I own, but it has to be perfect. It's not like a boa where you can have a temperature gradient, a range, substrate, all that stuff.
But the key is observation too. You got to be watching them all the time because they can develop an RI and you won't even notice it for months. You know what I mean? They can develop something if you're not on top of your snakes, cleaning their cages on a regular basis, inspecting them. You just got to be on top of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's big too.